Welcome to Bilateral View. Today we're taking a deep dive into the life of one of the most famous and controversial figures in biblical history, King Solomon. Known for his wisdom, wealth, and power, Solomon is often celebrated as a shining example of leadership. But was he truly the wise king he is remembered to be? Or did the complexities of his reign, particularly in his later years, reveal a man who struggled with the very principles he once held dear? Many people are familiar with the story of Solomon as the wise judge who decided the dispute between two women over a child. This episode is also often tied to the moment when God appeared to Solomon in a dream and offered him anything, to which Solomon wisely chose wisdom over riches or power. But today we're going to peel back the layers of his reign and explore the darker side of his story, one that was marked by power struggles, religious decline, and a reign that ended in tragedy. We'll take a closer look at his childhood, his rise to the throne, and, of course, his early years of prosperity, and most importantly, the eventual downfall of his empire. This isn't just the story of a wise king, it's the story of a man who had everything, but ultimately lost it all. Solomon was the 17th of King David's 19 sons, making him one of the least likely candidates to succeed his father as king. In a royal family where succession was determined by birthright, Solomon's chances of becoming king seemed remote. His older brothers, including the ambitious Adonijah, were prominent candidates. However, Solomon's rise to power was influenced by divine intervention, as God chose him to lead Israel after David. The first major act of Solomon's reign was his elimination of Adonijah, the presumed successor to the throne. Adonijah's bid for power involved political maneuvering, and Solomon responded by banishing him. This act created lasting repercussions throughout Solomon's reign. It established military rivals on the northern edge of Israel, particularly in the regions of Judah and Israel, creating tensions that would continue throughout Solomon's life. These internal rivalries, born of family conflict, would ultimately contribute to the division of kingdom after Solomon's death. Solomon's wisdom is perhaps the most famous aspect of his reign. The Bible tells us in 1 Kings 4:30 that his wisdom surpassed that of all the people of the East, and that he was credited with composing 3,000 proverbs. His wisdom became legendary, and rulers from surrounding nations came to hear him speak, including the Queen of Sheba, who marveled at his insight. But Solomon's wisdom wasn't limited to his judgments. He also authored significant portions of scripture, like the Song of Solomon, much of the book of Proverbs, and the book of Ecclesiastes. In particular, Ecclesiastes is often associated with Solomon's personal reflections on life. While some scholars debate the authorship, many believe the book's themes align closely with his experiences. The Solomonic flavor is evident, especially in sections like Ecclesiastes 2:1-11, where the author reflects on the fleeting nature of wealth and pleasure, experiences Solomon himself surely knew well. As wise as he was, he'd never adhered to major restrictions outlined in Deuteronomy 17:16-17, for instance, not having many wives, lest his heart be led astray. Unfortunately, he ignored these commandments. His vast wealth became a hallmark of his reign, but it also laid the foundation for his eventual downfall. He made alliances with foreign nations through political marriages, including to women who led him into idolatry. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines, many of whom were foreign princesses. His relationship with them led him to a spiritual crisis, as his wives introduced him to various gods. Solomon built shrines to these gods, and he had these high places for idol worship. His failure to maintain a faithful heart toward God was the beginning of the unraveling of his reign. His foreign policy, which initially brought peace and prosperity through alliances with neighboring nations, eventually faltered. The marriages that were intended to secure alliances only deepened his reliance on foreign powers, further compromising his faithfulness to God. His focus shifted from spiritual devotion to personal gain, and his once strong relationship with God began to deteriorate. Despite his failures, Solomon did accomplish feats during his reign. One of his most notable achievements was the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, which became the center of Jewish worship. He also established cities like Megiddo, a strategic town located at the pass through the Carmel Range that connected the coastal plain with the plain of Esdraelon. This city is one of the best preserved examples of Solomon's ambitious building projects, a symbol of his power and wealth. But as Solomon's reign wore on, the cracks in his empire grew more pronounced. His reliance on forced labor and heavy taxation created widespread discontent among the people, particularly in the northern tribes. This tension was one of the contributing factors to the division of the kingdom after Solomon's death, as previously said. The unified notion of Israel, which Solomon had inherited from David, his father, was torn apart, with 10 tribes breaking away to form the northern kingdom, leaving only Judah and Benjamin in the south. His kingdom was lost beyond recall, and the division marked the end of the golden age of Israel. By the time Solomon died, his heart had turned away from God. His obsession with wealth, sex, and power left him spiritually bankrupt. The man who had started out as the wise king, known for his discernment and devotion, had become a symbol of the dangers of unchecked power and indulgence. Despite all his achievements, Solomon's inability to guard his heart from the temptations of wealth, power, and foreign influences led to the division of his kingdom and a loss of his legacy. His downfall is a profound lesson that even the wisest and most powerful can fall if they allow pride, compromise, and idolatry to take place. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy this episode, subscribe and stay tuned for more insights from history and scripture. Until next time, I'm Rodora. Take care.